You ever watch a disaster coming, feel it gathering out past the horizon, and know, no, there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it? Yeah, that was me. 12 years ago, the first time I stood on the edge of this bluff looking out over the waves. Back then, I didn't buy this battered little cottage for the granite countertops or the fixer-upper charm. I bought it for the peace I thought maybe I'd finally earned after 2 decades chasing storms in the Navy. I wanted my own piece of quiet, a place where the tide meant beauty instead of orders barked at dawn. So I got to work. Not on kitchen remodels or open floor plans on the land. I planted coastal oaks and black mangroves, wax myrtles. Anything that would dig roots into this sandy bluff and hold it together against the wind and the surf. I called them my guardians. They took years, but over time those trees grew into a living seawall. Roots knitted deep canopies, breaking the ocean wind, the whole bluff anchored like it finally belonged here. And for a while, so did I. Neighbors would wander by and ask about the trees. Kids did science projects on the difference between my shoreline and the folks who just had grass. Even the county agent came by. One spring looked around and grinned. "You've built a living seawall here." That was the dream. Something lasting. Something that worked. But peace around here is always on borrowed time. 4 months ago, it all changed practically overnight. That's when Karen Davenport rolled into town. And before you ask, yeah, her name really was Karen, and no, she didn't see the irony. She moved into a custom-built house up on the hill, floor-to-ceiling windows looking right down on my trees and I guess right into my business. First time I met her, she was walking the sidewalk clipboard in hand, iced coffee giving my hedge a side-eye like she was the city's plant police. "Did you know your hedge is 2 feet over the height allowance?" No hello, just straight to business. I laughed, couldn't help it. Nobody had mentioned my hedge in a decade. She didn't laugh back. I'm saying something now. 3 weeks later, she was president of the HOA uncontested. Didn't matter that nobody voted. She campaigned hard, promised a return to property value preservation. Folks didn't care, so she won. And then the letter started. First one folded and slipped into my mailbox. Notice of violation, unauthorized vegetation obstruction. It had a fancy new letterhead and her signature at the bottom. My trees apparently were blocking neighborhood sight lines and ocean views. I read it 3 times before I believed it. I stood by those trees, looked out over the bluff and thought, without these, my backyard will be down there with the crabs before winter's out. But Karen didn't see protection. She saw power she couldn't control. I sent in my documentation, photos, county approvals, even a coastal engineer's report. Didn't matter. 2 weeks later, a second notice showed up with a fine. $50 a day, retroactive. That's when I knew this wasn't about rules or views or even ocean breezes. It was about control. I'd seen that kind of thinking before, usually from folks who never had to defend anything real. Week by week, the pressure built. Karen set up subcommittees, view optimization, landscaping harmony, even a safety and bylaw task force. My trees were target number 1. At the next HOA meeting, she put up a slideshow of visual offenses, zoomed-in photos of my bluff looking wild and dangerous. I raised my hand, kept my voice calm. Those trees are your seawall. Cut them down and you're one good storm away from watching your yard slide into the surf. She smiled tight as a drum. If you don't comply, the board will arrange removal. I couldn't help but laugh, just stunned by the ignorance. That night, I got another letter, final notice. Then a visit from a guy named Rick from the View Optimization Squad offering me a lemon bar and asking if I'd considered trimming the trees to knee height. Rick, buddy, if I trim those to knee height, the bluff's gone in the next big storm. Karen said the HOA engineer said that's not a concern. Karen also said she studied coastal ecology. I think she majored in marketing. Yeah, that happened. The letters kept coming, claims about roots threatening fiber cables, even a notice about a branch casting a shadow onto common space. A shadow, for God's sake. I started documenting everything, every letter, every visit, every photo snapped from behind a shrub. Because what Karen didn't know was I wasn't just a Navy deck officer, I was a shoreline specialist. I'd spent years keeping coasts intact. She was playing games with something bigger than either of us. Then the hammer dropped a letter saying the HOA reserves the right to access the property and remove unauthorized flora at owner's expense. I sat at my kitchen table, the ocean rumbling beyond the glass, reading those words over and over. That's when I dug in, filed a cease and desist, copied in the county and state, attached every statute I could find on coastal conservation. I even called in an old Navy buddy who is now a state environmental specialist. He sent an affidavit about the grove's importance. But the letters doubled. Then came the photos. Telephoto shots from behind my property branches circled with red arrows, sketches showing a proposed view corridor slicing through my land. They were getting ready for war. And then silence. No more letters, no more Rick, no more passive-aggressive emails. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that means someone's planning something big. I reached out, set up a meeting with Karen face to face at the clubhouse. She sat at the head of the table, gold-foiled mug in hand, not a board member in sight. I slid the folder across every permit, every survey, every legal doc. She didn't even open it. I know what you believe, she said. No. I know what's true, I shot back. And so will the state if you escalate. Her eyes flashed, but she kept her voice smooth. If you don't like the standards, you're free to find another neighborhood. Or, I said I can wait for the next storm to teach you what those standards cost. She flinched, but hardened. You've been warned. I updated my records, sent everything to my friend at the state office, he replied. Keep it all. If they act, we escalate. Sure enough, a few days later, a pink slip was taped to my fence. Tree removal scheduled Tuesday, 9 a.m. Someone even wrote no more delays in red. They were coming. Tuesday morning, 3 unmarked trucks pulled up, guys with chainsaws, Karen in her Lexus sunglasses shining. She marched to the edge of my yard, waved a sheet of board authorization. We're proceeding. I pointed at my no trespassing sign. She shrugged. HOA has easement authority. Not for this. Not without a court order. But she didn't care. Chainsaws fired up, teeth grinding. I started recording. This is my property. The HOA has no order. This violates state code. Karen rolled her eyes. You're being ridiculous. But at 9:03, they started first the wax myrtle, then an oak. Each crash echoed like bones breaking. Please stop, I said, not yelling, just pleading. She ignored me. And then a sheriff's cruiser pulled up, lights spinning. Who's in charge here? The deputy barked. Karen stepped up, all authority. We're executing a landscape compliance order. Ma'am, you got a warrant? This is HOA land jurisdiction. No, ma'am, this is private property. No city order, no removal. Step back. Karen tried to argue, but the deputy shut her down. You want to press charges, he asked me. I looked at the wreckage, the roots torn out, my hands shaking. Not today. Karen left tires, screeching eyes full of fury. The bluff was bare, and the wind coming off the ocean felt wrong heavier. That night I didn't sleep. The sky was green by midnight wind howling, rain pounding sideways. I listened to the sea, not gentle but roaring. By 3:30 a.m., the surge began. I watched from my kitchen as water rose, foam bursting over the bluff, carving into the soil, no trees to hold it. Then a wave, black and solid, slammed into Karen's hill, tore her fence apart, shattered the clubhouse glass. The screams carried in the wind, one sharp, then nothing. More waves, more destruction. By dawn, the storm was done. The bluff was 4 feet smaller, the oak's stump swept away. Karen's house, half her yard gone, balcony dangling. She sat by the curb, soaked in ruined eyes, unfocused, just rocking. The clubhouse looked like a war zone. The bluff had failed, and everyone knew it. I watched the city inspectors shake their heads. You're lucky you still have a parcel, one said to me. I dropped to my knees, pressed my hand into the muddy earth where my trees had stood, promised myself I wouldn't let this be the end. The fallout came quick. Karen resigned, voice shaking, tears on her cheeks, admitting her mistake in front of the whole neighborhood. Mr. Whitaker warned us. We didn't listen. The city's report called it avoidable failure. Homeowners sued the HOA. State investigators arrived. I handed over everything: photos, letters, time-stamped videos. The director of coastal conservation called, offered to use my land for education restoration. I said yes, so long as nobody planted a view obstruction sign. By spring, new saplings took root. Coastal grasses, mangroves, slow and careful. The HOA board collapsed, replaced by actual neighbors working together. No more Karen, no more fines, just folks trying to rebuild what mattered. My voice for once started to matter too. The city passed new rules. No HOA could remove shoreline vegetation without an impact study. They called it the Whitaker Clause. Karen moved away. Her legacy. A ruined house in a neighborhood that finally learned. The bluff healed slowly. The sea calmed, birds returned, new trees took hold. And me, I stayed. Because this wasn't just my house, it was my line in the sand. I spoke at City Hall, told them it wasn't about the view, it was about the foundation. Lose that, and you lose everything. People listened, maybe for the first time. You know, folks always ask if I'm angry if I wish Karen had gotten hers in court. But justice doesn't always come with sirens or lawsuits. Sometimes it grows quiet, patient, deep in the earth, like roots. That's what holds us together. That's what brings peace long after the storm. So what do you think? Was I right to fight? Should I have let them take the trees? Drop your own story. Tell me where you stand on justice and land and what really matters in a neighborhood. And if you ever find yourself looking at a bluff, a storm on the horizon, and someone tells you to cut your roots, remember my story and hold the line.